Okay, hi everybody. I was actually thinking, and also because I'm bored of work, um, I would go through the process of how I got approved for bariatric surgery. I know that a lot of programs are different, but OSU does a good job at having kind of a comprehensive program where you do a lot of the legwork. You don't have to rely on your doctor doing all the work for you. Um, I was lucky, and OSU made a lot of my appointments for me, and all I really had to do was go. Um, but I will show you kind of what the process is and show you kind of where I am in my, I guess, step of the process. I'm still pre-op. I have a couple of videos where I discuss kind of in depth my journey and why I'm having bariatric surgery. But I just kind of wanted to go over the paperwork because a lot of people they will tell you, just call a doctor, call your insurance company, blah, blah, blah. I kind of wanted to go step by step because a lot of people don't know how to start this process. Mine started with finding a couple of bariatric programs in my area. In Central Ohio, there's like 3 or 4. And the first one that I went to, I really liked. I really liked the doctor that they had at the presentation. They had a patient that came in and said, how great her gastric bypass was. And I signed up for their program. Well, come to find out, my insurance company didn't take them. So I was pushed to OSU, which, was fine. I didn't physically go to one of their information sessions because I had already done a lot of research. And that's one thing I can tell you that is a very good idea. Research everything there is to know about weight loss surgery. I know about, the sleeve. I can tell you what happens during the sleeve. I can tell you what happens during gastric bypass. I can tell you what happens during gastric balloon, lap band, the Stophanex, or I know I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Duodenal switch. I can describe every single surgery and why it's not a good idea for me. If I had my choice, I would go with a duodenal switch, but because it's basically a sleeve with a bypass, I didn't think that I would get the restriction that I needed. There's a lot of the malabsorption, which is where gastric bypass patients lose a lot of their weight, besides losing, kind of their ability to eat a whole lot. But I figured RNY was a good enough step. So in the realm, in the realm of bariatric surgery, you have, I think, you've got the diet plans, Weight Watchers and stuff. They're kind of like on the low end. You lose a little bit of weight. Yeah, there's a lot of people that lose a tremendous amount of weight with Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem. But those are kind of few and far between. You're looking at a 20, maybe 30 pound weight loss with those programs. You have the next step, which I think is kind of lap band, gastric balloon. If for those of you who don't really know, lap band is basically where they place a band around the top portion of your stomach, kind of like a gastric bypass, where the portion of the stomach, they cut that off and they adjust it. They place this band around the top of your stomach, and you have a port that's kind of, I don't know where they place the port. I'm guessing it's closer to kind of your side, like kidney area type. I'm not too terribly sure because I haven't had lap band, and they fill it and empty it out with fluid. Unfortunately, a lap band has proved to be a very, I don't want to say dangerous, but a very unbeneficial. Yes, you lose weight in the short term, but a lot of people will have issues with the band slipping, which means it just falls farther down the stomach, or it falls further up, causing, you know, you could have herniations, you can have just kind of port failures where you have to have the port reinstalled. I'm just very wary of extra parts in you. But a lot of people are getting their lap bands taken out. So 10 years it was all the rage. 10 years ago it was all the rage. Now people are getting these removed, and from all the bariatric groups that I'm a part of on Facebook, I have only heard of one person getting lap band in the last couple of months, and I really haven't seen her post a whole lot, but I don't know, I think it's a half attempt at weight loss. If you want to change something, you're gonna have to change your anatomy. That's just plain and simple. The gastric balloon, my stepfather actually asked me if I would consider the gastric balloon before gastric bypass. And he's an insurance salesman, and he does Medicaid, or Medicare. And so he has a little bit more medical knowledge than most people. So he had seen it, and he may have known a couple of clients that have gotten it and that they had had success, and he asked me if I would consider getting it, and I had to go through and tell him all the reasons why I wouldn't. First of all, again, it's a foreign object being placed into your body. There's no cutting involved. It's basically installed via endoscopy, so, you know, down the throat into your stomach. They blow up this balloon, and it fills up most of your stomach, and it's got a hole in the middle of it where kind of the food goes through. It has to be removed 6 months later. The weight loss, again, just like with lap band, maybe 50 pounds, if that. Yeah, that's okay, but once you take out that balloon, all the restriction is gone, and you gain all the weight back. So lap band and gastric balloon for me is like a fad diet, you know, and everybody knows about fad dieting. I've done fad dieting. What was it? In my mid-20s, I got to the point where I ate one meal a day. Yeah, it was a giant meal, but I only ate one meal a day. So I did lose weight, but I think that was more because I was starving myself rather than eating little small meals every single day. So next step for me would be the sleeve. It's only a 10% weight difference, weight loss difference between the sleeve, which is 50 to 60% of your excess weight, so, and gastric bypass, which is 70 to 80%. It just depends on how much you're really working your program. Sleeve, I think it's a newer surgery, and I know I'm gonna have a lot of sleepers yelling at me. It's a newer surgery. I think you're gonna see it as a fad. It's set up to be 2 surgeries. So first you get the sleeve, you lose weight, you start gaining that weight back, and don't tell me you don't, because I've seen plenty of people on Facebook posts going, I failed my sleeve and I'm getting the weight back. Well, sleevers can have what's called a duodenal switch, and it's basically the sleeve with a bypass, and it's bypassed further down than a gastric bypass, so you do have the resolution of diabetes symptoms. For the sleeve, I believe the figure is 30 to 40% of diabetics see resolution in their diabetes symptoms. So that wasn't a good enough percentage for me. Gastric bypass, it's 80 to 90%. Mainly because the portion of your intestines that will metabolize all that sugar is bypassed. So I will probably, like the day after surgery, be off all of my metformin. Right now I take 2,000 milligrams of metformin, which is the max. You know, usually they don't give you any more. It's maintaining my blood sugar, which is good. It has for the last 14 15 years ish. Um, but the sleeve, I think, is set up to be 2 surgeries. So you're setting yourself up for 2 surgeries if you choose sleeve. There are people that maintain their weight loss with sleeve, and that's great. But you're eventually going to stretch that pouch out to where you're eating 1,500 to 1,700 calories, and that's back up to a normal calorie intake. And you're going to start getting your weight back. You're going to be upset, and you are going to be pushed into another surgery and go through this entire process again. You go through the same process with the revision. You have to make sure you're, fit for surgery. You have to make sure that your insurance company approves. Hiccups. And you just have to make sure everything, you go through the same problem, and you risk going through another surgery. You risk creating a whole bunch of scar tissue. I don't know. I've had 2 ankle surgeries, so I know about how bad scar tissue is. I've had a doctor actually pull on scar tissue and pull it off of a bone, and I can't even describe the pain because it was shocking. Like, I couldn't move, and I was in shock for about 20 minutes afterwards, and then I started crying. I had no idea what had happened, but the pain was so intense that the scar tissue had adhered itself to the bone. He pulled it off, and I couldn't do it. I just sat in my truck. What just happened to me? It's a surprise. So I'm not a big fan of scar tissue. So I would just rather have 1 surgery, avoid all of the scar tissue, because people are skipping from lap band to sleeve to, a revision to RNY or duodenal switch, and it seems like a waste of money. To be honest with you, it is a waste of money, because each of these surgeries, unless you have them all in the same year, which is impossible. No program would do that, but I don't know, just your time and the expense and the yo-yo dieting up and down, it just seems like it would take a bigger toll than you really need to. And that's why gastric bypass, to me, felt like the better choice. I'm shrinking the size of my stomach. My stomach is staying in my body. With the sleeve, 90% of your stomach is taken out, totally taken out of your body. Yeah, that's pounds lost, but what happens if, something drastic happens and you need that part of your stomach? You don't have it anymore. You can't, at least in very extreme situations, RNY can be reversed, which is great. That's kind of why I gravitated towards gastric bypass. I don't plan on having it reversed, but I do have that option. It's very possible. Say I get cancer and I have problems with, nutrition, and I can't gain weight, and, I'm becoming, sicker than I actually need to be. They can reverse it, and that malnutrition goes away. Granted, I could gain back all the weight, which is why I want to avoid that at all costs. So I like to hedge my bets, pretty much, is what this deal is. After RNY is the duodenal switch. Like I said, it's more of a weight loss. It's a little bit more than gastric bypass, but not by much. A lot of people do it and are very happy with it. A lot of people have digestive issues. I will be honest, you're not going to crap the same ever again. It's not going to be normal. Don't trust a fart ever. Go to the bathroom. Don't think that, you could just be funny on the couch and rip one off, and hopefully you're home, because you're going to have to go change your shorts. I'm just saying, this is what I've learned from other people. So never trust a fart. That's the biggest thing you can take away. Don't trust a fart, ever. So that's kind of surgeries in a nutshell. You need to look up. There's plenty of others. There's the mini bypass, the Stophanex. I know I'm screwing that up. There's lots of other mini surgeries. There was the 80s stomach stapling, which is kind of like sleeve, but your stomach stays in your body. But there was a lot of complications with that, so nobody does that anymore. Mini bypass is usually Europe and Australia. You'll hear a lot of people talking about it on Facebook that are from the UK, asking about mini bypass. It works to a point, but again, I think it's like sleep and it's half-assed. So, either you're in it to win it, or, you kind of just want to do the new and, best and more expensive, or I guess newest and shiniest, which I'm not a big fan of. I think in 10 years, sleeve is going to be just like the gastric balloon and lap band. It's going to show that most people regain, and you can get re-sleeved, which I think is not a good idea. And you can also do the conversion, but again, you're setting yourself up for failure with sleeve. That is my personal opinion. Like I said, a lot of people have maintained with sleeve, but it's new. There is not that much research about gastric sleeve. There's enough for it to be popular, like lap band, but the long-term results are just not there. And for me, that does not make me comfortable. So, there are people 20 years out that have got gastric bypass, and they're doing great, and, they're thin, they're fit, and I don't think you're going to see that a lot with sleeve. I think sleeve is good for mid-range BMIs, so anything over 35 but under 39 would be good for a sleeve. But you have to work your ass off. You have to make sure you're not stretching your sleeve. You have to make sure you're not drinking any pop. You have to make sure that you are keeping that sleeve a normal size. You cannot overeat. I think gastric bypass and the duodenal switch should be, it should be the only two choices for people with a BMI over 40. That, again, personal opinion. That's just, my thoughts on it. It's just, it doesn't make sense to get a sleeve when you're 400 pounds, when you're only going to be losing about half of that weight. Well, half of your extra weight, I should say. You are not going to lose 200 pounds on the sleeve, unless you go through some extreme calorie counting, making sure that you are exercising. You can lose 200 pounds with sleeve, but you need to be a bigger person in order to do that. And keep in mind, when people are telling you about how much weight you're gonna lose, sorry, I thought someone was watching me. If this is all excess weight, so whatever your normal weight should be. Take me for example. I'm 5'6". I weigh right now 326 pounds. Still, people that have seen my other videos, that's still what I weigh. And my goal weight is around 150. With my muscle structure, because I have very muscular thighs, I have, cyclist thighs, swimmer's thighs, whatever. I have a lot of muscle in my lower half. So 150 is feasible, but at the same time, I would look healthier. I would look just as healthy at 175. So that's kind of my overview of the different surgeries. Why I'm having gastric bypass, mainly because it makes sense for me. The restrictions there, the malabsorption, which is a word that scares a lot of people. Malabsorption just means that you aren't getting as much as you need. I mean, that's kind of the basis of the word. The definition of the word is not getting what you need. So you can solve that problem by taking vitamins religiously. If you get a duodenal switch or gastric bypass, you will be taking vitamins for the rest of your life. There is no stopping. You are taking a multivitamin, you are taking calcium citrate, you are taking, and I say calcium citrate, there is a difference between calcium carbonate, and calcium citrate. Calcium carbonate needs stomach acid to be absorbed into the body. RNY and duodenal switch, you do not have stomach acid. So you cannot absorb calcium carbonate. You will need to take calcium citrate, which is available. I get mine from Amazon as a powder. It's really easy to mix into like drinks and stuff. So I could just mix it in drinks during the day, usually water. It'll mix with water really well, the kind that I buy. And I buy like 3 pounds at a time, and it's like $16, which isn't bad, seeing as how they're selling a lot of the calcium chews online for $42 for a month's worth. So it's good to look into your vitamins ahead of time. I did a lot of research on vitamins and how much they cost. I started taking vitamins regularly. I take Flintstones Complete. That's the one with the iron. It's in a purple bottle, at least right now as of 2008. I guess May 2008. It's in a purple bottle. And you can get it on Amazon for $25, and you get two huge bottles of it. And one bottle will last me 3 months. So I only have to buy it twice a year. Calcium, you take your calcium along with your vitamin D3. It helps absorb that calcium citrate. So those two are definitely needed, because if you do not take your vitamins, you will end up with osteoporosis, brittle bones. It's not something you want. And then I'm gonna take B complex, which is all your B vitamins, thiamine, kind of stuff you get from protein anyway, but you're gonna need more of it. And vitamin B12 sublingual, that's required by my program. Basically sublingual means just like under your tongue, because you have a sublingual gland right underneath here, right where my pouchiness is, and it's absorbed through that. So that'll help you keep your energy up. Granted, you only absorb so much of the B vitamins that you need, but I am normally lacking in B vitamins, as you can see from the dark circles and all that. So, more B vitamins won't hurt you. If you take more than you need, yeah, you'll be wasting your money, but it's better to overtake than undertake, in my opinion. Okay, so that's working through research, different surgeries, vitamins. Now, getting started with a bariatric program. OSU is really great. I will flip the camera around here, see if I can. Apparently not. So they have this nice little bariatric surgery steps to get started sheet. So, first step is attending an informational session. Just make sure you are seeing way more than you need to. There's the informational session, and they actually make you call your insurance provider, which I think is a great idea. You need to make sure before you even submit to the program that you make sure that your insurance company covers this. I mean, you can call them. OSU has this great sheet where it has the CPT codes on them, so you can go through and say, okay, do you cover RNY? Here's the CPT code just in case the customer service person needs it. They do have lap band on here, which they don't do anymore. So there we go. I'll kind of go through it like this because I can't turn my camera around. Yeah, you can't really see that. It's like backwards. Anyway, I'll walk through it. Then on here they do have the self-pay option, which, you know, a lot of people have to self-pay because their company or insurance company doesn't cover it, or their plan doesn't cover it. A lot of people end up going to Mexico, which scares the living bejesus out of me, and I wish you guys, you know, all the luck in the world going down to Mexico or even Brazil. It makes me nervous, honestly. I wouldn't do it. And that's just me. That's a personal choice. I think it's great. A lot of people have a really good, you know, experience with doctors in Mexico, and I am so happy, but there's a lot of times that people do not, which scares the crap out of me. So, for OSU, RNY is, if you're self-paying, you have to pay everything up front. It is, $1,900, almost $20,000, which honestly isn't bad, seeing as how my surgery is probably going to be upwards of $60. Charge the insurance company. Their gastric sleeve is $2,000 less at $1,700 or $17,200. So now they do require a application, which, you know, is a couple pages long, and it goes through kind of, you know, everything, your primary care and your insurance that you have, secondary insurance, and then it goes into the questions. Do you smoke? If you are smoking right now and you haven't, stop. Not because it's bad for you. Yes, we get that. Smoking is bad. Smoking kills. But this will prevent you from having surgery. And the further out that you quit, the easier it's going to be to have surgery. I've seen quite a few people's surgeries canceled because they tested positive for nicotine the day of surgery. So if you can write on your application that you currently do not smoke, that's even better. I have not yet been tested for nicotine at all. Mainly because I can't smell it on me, and mainly because I don't smoke. Now, people ask, is vaping included? Yes, vaping is included. Some programs will exempt you from the nicotine if you are actively trying to quit. So patches, gum, but they can also test you for the tar in cigarettes. So don't think you're gonna, you know, fool them by saying, oh, I'm on the gum. They can, smokers, just to tell you, you lose your sense of smell. To be honest with you, I can smell you coming a mile away. So this is also an issue with when you're healing, because smokers are more apt to get just have issues down the line. You'll heal more slowly, you'll get ulcers, you know, all kinds of bad things. So I'm sure people have told you to just stop smoking. They ask you about alcohol consumption. I personally do. I rarely ever drink. My boyfriend drinks more than I do. Right now I'm drinking a lot because we have a lot left, and I need to get it all, you know, out, because I don't want to waste any of it. Nobody drinks my crazy fruity beers anyway. If you guys have never tried pineapple beer, that's some good stuff. There's a ton of calories and carbs in it, but it's so good. I had it when I went to Vegas. It was the best thing ever. Ace pineapple hard cider. It's awesome. It's a California brewing company. Ace. They do grape too. I haven't tried grape, but ask any allergies. Personally, I have a lot of medicine allergies. You know, go through it really quickly. Codeine, C, chlorpenicillin, albuterol, Vicodin. So it's been like that for years. So you can see I've gotten used to it. They will ask you about your medications. Be absolutely honest. I take Tylenol PM religiously to get to sleep, as well as melatonin. So I have to stop taking that prior to surgery. I can restart it, but I'm gonna have quite a few rough nights with that. Oh, hiccups. They ask you if you use CPAP or BiPAP. You know, for those with sleep apnea, you know, a lot of us do have sleep apnea. I was one of the lucky few, and I'm fat and I don't. Probably because I sleep on my side more than anything. my boyfriend is normal weight, and he has a little bit of sleep apnea. He snores, and he doesn't stop breathing, thank God, but, you know, all of that. It asks you to use oxygen. Another thing I don't use, unless I'm, you know, I have pneumonia or something. Surgeries. I, of course, put my joint surgeries. I've had 2 ankle surgeries, adenoids and tonsils, but that's it. And then if you count, like, wisdom teeth, that they knocked me out for that, mostly because I was 12 and I already had impacted wisdom teeth. So I'm sharing a lot of my medical history, so, you know, I'm using me as an example. And then they go through any illnesses or medical conditions that you or your family have had. So high blood pressure, I mentioned in a previous video, my dad has high blood pressure. Diabetes, I believe my dad is a diabetic, and he just isn't taking care of it. He had high cholesterol. Cancer runs in my mom's side of the family. My uncle died of a really weird cancer called basal cell lymphoma. My grandmother currently has it. I would suspect that me or one of my sisters will end up with it, mostly because it seems to be hitting generationally. So it was, you know, my grandmother, my uncle, and then I'm hoping one of my sisters, not me, but, you know, it's an incurable cancer. It's, you know, it's a lymphoma, and it's not the good kind of lymphoma. So, they ask you about sleep apnea. My dad has sleep apnea. I know. I've heard him sleep and snore and stop breathing. I mean, you can hear it from the next room. It's that bad. And his wife doesn't sleep with him because of it. Why they don't get it taken care of is beyond me. I don't know. You know, arthritis. I've mentioned before that I have severe arthritis. I don't take anything. That's why I take the Tylenol PM religiously, because it helps me get to sleep because of the pain. Exercise has been really great. The endorphins from exercise helps out a lot. Wow, you can really tell that I don't do my hair all that often. But it asks you about, you know, heartburn, chest pains, heart attacks. I mean, they go through a pretty extensive history. Clotting problems, bleeding problems, and then the very last one, which I'm so thankful that they have, is polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, which a lot of women have. If a guy tells you he has PCOS, I would question that, because the dude doesn't have ovaries. I have PCOS without the cysts, so, and haven't ever had a cyst, but I'm not going to be having kids, so it's, you know, not a thing for me. Now, it does have an insurance disclaimer, making sure that you're calling your insurance. They have a little script that you follow. You kind of go through and put in all your information, and then they give you a script. You know, first line is, hello, my name is, and then you put your name in there. I would like to learn about my plan and benefits and it gives you this whole speech, you know, does it cover, and I am good at talking to people on the fly on the phone, so I went through and, you know, kind of said, you know, is OSU Wexner Medical Center in my, you know, in plan? Yes. You know, are these doctors? So I named off the doctors, Dr. Bradley Needleman and Dr. Sabrina Noria. Yes, they're both in there. The anesthesiologist is, of course, day of, so you never know. Sometimes it's covered, sometimes it's not. But it goes through, you know, do you cover you know, services for, you know, clearances for cardiac, pulmonary, and they should say yes to all of those. What's the point in being approved for surgery when you can't get your, you know, surgery stuff, like your psych vals and your pre-admission testing and all that covered? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Ask them about the minimum BMI. My plan, I believe it's 35. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's 35. And then up from there, and it also has the question, you know, if my BMI is below 40, what do I need for insurance approval? Like, how many comorbidities? So mine is 52, my BMI. So, you know, mine's not below 40. So my weight alone just made me eligible. So it goes through the different CPT codes. They have open revision, which is basically where they open you up. Laparoscopic is where they have all the little holes that they, punch all the little tools through. That's 90% of all VSG sleeve. VSG is sleeve vertical gastric. I can't talk today. You know what I mean, VSG. And then gastric bypass. So, and they still have lap band on here. Again, don't get lap band. It's dumb. Plain and simple, it's dumb. You'll end up with more problems, if not now, down the road. Your deductible is very important. Knowing how much you need to hand off before surgery can be a make or break thing. I took most of my tax refund and put it in an HSA account. And so I've got the $1,500 for surgery. I've been adding a little bit to that for different things like every once in a while I need contact solution or my meds, my metformin, and I do take something for my thyroid off and on. Sometimes my thyroid works, sometimes it doesn't. And then enough to pay for my surgery plus the medications afterwards. You will get liquid medication. Sometimes it'll be great. Like, unfortunately, I can't take liquid codeine, so mine'll be a lot of opiates or even non-opiates, which would even be even better. Tramadol. That's the best thing I've ever had. I've been Dilaudid. That was good too. I don't condone drug use, but in this application, your pain being managed will help you heal faster. If you are in pain, ask for drugs. You do not want to stifle your healing because you're in pain. Also, if you aren't having a regular, I'm trying to be nice about it, if you aren't taking a shit at least once a day, you have a problem. I've seen people on the boards going, I haven't shit in a week. Do I need to see a doctor? Dude, I would have called 3 days into it. People will put too much pressure on their intestines and your anastomoses, which are the points where your bowel and your stomach are reattached, can leak. I mean, there are hundreds of little staples in there, but it will leak and you will get sepsis and you can die from sepsis. I know my boyfriend had his appendix rupture when he was in high school and he nearly died from the sepsis, and he was on a kind of the I guess the direct, I forgot a lot of these terms because I'm tired, but he had a I guess a port put in so he could get direct antibiotics into his heart. That way he didn't keel over and die. It happens. Be very conscious of when you are taking a shit, when you aren't, your pain, and making sure that you are paying attention. Don't think that you're being a bother. Personally, if you are in immediate pain, go to the ER. You've had surgery. You can die from this. Other than that, that's my biggest thing. But I kind of wanted to help people kind of go through what I've gone through. I completed the packet. I sent it in last year. The first thing that was my stumbling block was the psych eval. My insurance didn't cover any of the doctors that they wanted me to see, which it almost stopped me before I was before I even started. I finally got them to take a place that I found online, surprisingly. It's called bariatric psych profiles or something like that. ask me about it, and I can send it to you. It's run by an actual doctor in Texas. I think it was the University of Houston or something like that, in charge of their bariatric psych program. They go through, you answer questions online, you pay your deductible. Mine was $170, I do believe, and I paid that with my HSA. You know, if you don't have an HSA, get one. It's fantastic. You just keep putting money away, little bits at a time, and it's pretty much available to you if you have an HSA. If you can have an HSA, get it. It'll be great. I think my boyfriend has in his health savings account like $12,000 built up, so it's very helpful. Just in case something happens. But I got them to take this online doctor. They called me. I took a test online. They called me with an appointment. I talked to a woman for 20 minutes. And a week later, I had the report in hand that said, oh yeah, she's great. She's good to go. And when I went to my evaluation appointment, where they took all my blood and told me, you know, who I needed to see, and, you know, cardiac and sleep study and all that good stuff, they said it was the most well put together psych evaluation they had ever seen. It was very organized. It was very to the point. You know, there wasn't any problems with it. And obviously my insurance company took it because I was approved yesterday. So I went through evaluation day. I've talked about that before. I had to have cardiac sleep apnea clearance. Both were, you know, set up that day. So it was very nice. I also had an appointment for an ERG, where they take a look down your throat and into your stomach. I had no problems. I got pictures. You know, I like seeing the inside, you know, what they see. So they took samples. Nothing came back. I never heard from them. So, you know, no news is good news in that respect. My file is reviewed by the medical staff, and then it is submitted to insurance for approval. I got that yesterday. So I am set, ready to go for my pre-op appointment with my surgeon. So they will schedule my anesthesia, if not that day, you know, very quickly afterwards. And then I will get my surgery date in 2 to 3 weeks. So everything is coming together for me right now. So that is kind of the steps that I went through to get to where I am. Like I said, I'm still pre-surgery, but I'm after insurance approval, but before my pre-op appointment. So it's kind of in that gray area of having to wait for other people to, I know that they have to review my file one more time. There's a lot of little steps in between, you know, kind of what OSU has on here. But that's kind of how I got started in, you know, the different things on bariatric surgery. So if you have questions, you have some comments, let me know. If I didn't explain something very clearly, I can in my next couple of videos. But my biggest takeaway is do your research. Read. And not... I get very annoyed with people who post online asking very simple questions to, you know, what is RNY? You can put that into a Google search and it'll tell you everything you need to know about RNY. What is sleeve? Again, put in gastric sleeve and you will get tons of information on it. Use Google, use your local library, use the CDC. The CDC has great numbers when it comes to mortalities for bariatric surgery. Right now, the mortality rate for bariatric surgery is 0.3%. You have a higher chance of getting in a car crash. You have a higher chance of being in a crashing plane, which I probably shouldn't have said that because my boyfriend's a pilot. I mean, you catch my drift. You know, you die in a car accident before you died having this surgery. But what I do know is if I don't have this surgery, I will die. My life will be shorter. Doing this will put years on my life. So that's kind of my 2 cents about it. I'm trying to make this under 45 minutes, so I've got 10 seconds left. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Don't forget to subscribe, and I have plenty of other videos for you to see. So, see you guys.